Hello, BookTube. I was agonizing yesterday about whether or not to go to the Boston Public Library book sale, which was held today. Um, and I was talking with David Murphy about it, and he said, go to the Boston Public Library book sale, or you're a big fat loser. So I took care of Frida, and I settled everything here, and I put on pants, and I went to the Boston Public Library book sale. It was only later, when I read the fine print of his email, that I realized that he had written, go to the Boston Public Library, and also you are a big fat loser. So the devil is in the details. I need not have gone. It wasn't saving anything by going. But I went. It was a beautiful day. There is currently construction going on the subway here in Boston, and it directly affects my end of the subway, but not this part of it. If I'd went any farther than the Boston Public Library, I would have been affected by construction, but I wasn't. So it was an easy trip. It's a quick trip. So I went. And I have been going to the Boston Public Library book sale for a long, long, long time. Many, many decades. In all of its different forms, all of its different locations, all of its different frequencies. I remember when the book sale was held just nonstop in one particular room in the library. I'd be willing to bet there are no current employees of the Boston Public Library who are old enough to remember that. I have loved it in all of its guises, in all of its weathers. I have gone there. I've brought lots and lots of people there. I've encouraged it. I've sung its praises. It's put on by the Friends of the Boston Public Library, and they do great work. They are a fantastic organization. I've gone there myself and spent a good deal of money and had a good deal of fun, joking and joshing with the friends who were volunteering there and also with people that were at the sale. So it's extra melancholy for me to say that this will be my last Boston Public Library book sale, the way things stand now. This will be the last time that I go. That feels weird. And I want to briefly address the reason why before I get to the books. So the next part of this video is addressed directly to the Friends of the Boston Public Library, who organize and run the book sale, and two of whom watch this channel. For all I know, more than two watch this channel. I want to explain to you why I am not going. I realize I am just one patron. I'm not a mass movement, but I will also be encouraging other people not to go for the same reason that I'm not going, because in order for them to avoid annoyance. And the reason why I won't be going to any more Boston Public Library book sales is one word: dealers. Those subhuman, insectile dealers, book dealers, who come with the app on their cell phone. One of them this morning had an app hanging on a harness from a headband, so that he could just look at it while he was handling books. Another had one handily mounted on a wristband, custom made for that purpose, so that he could be tapping away, looking up every book that he scanned. I went this morning to the Boston Public Library book sale, and when I got to the sale room, there were 81 people there, and 50 of them were dealers. 50 out of 81. Well more than half. More than half the people there were sequestering whole shelves in a section until I told them not to. More than half the people there were sequestering whole bays of books, just blocking them bodily until I told them not to. More than half the people there were strong arms sweeping whole shelves of books into piles on the floor so that they could hunker over them and scan them in peace and quiet with no one else allowed to look at them until I told them not to. The whole of my time visiting the Boston Public Library book sale this morning was policing the Boston Public Library book sale and telling these insectile, inhuman, ought to be legal to kill them dealers, knock it off. You do not get to sequester whole shelves. You do not get to block whole bays because you're doing business here. You don't get to do that. Knock it off. Put those books back where you found them. I don't want to have to do that at a library book sale, and I don't want to be browsing at a library book sale purely at the sufferance of book dealers, the way everyone else in the room was. Everyone else, all the normal people in the room, were being treated rudely by these dealers who hate books and hate reading, and most especially hate readers, who they think of as the biggest suckers on earth. That was 50 out of 81 people. And once I did that head count, I just walked around. I was openly counting them. They could see that I was doing it. Once I did that head count, I realized I was not going back. So I shopped for books and managed to do it, managed to keep my temper, managed not to just walk out in disgust. I shopped for books. I got a bunch of books that I want to show you. And I went to the tables to check out, and I paid and therefore contributed to the Friends of the Public Library. And I wish that I could continue to do that through the means of the book sale. I will still volunteer money to the Friends, but not the book sale. Where I have brought lots of people, I have said, hey, you're coming in from out of town, let's meet at the Boston Public Library book sale. The timing is perfect. I've had old friends come in from out of town and said, what have you got for me to do? And I've said, well, there's the book sale at the library. We can go there. That'll be a lot of fun. All of that is over. I won't be doing any more of that. And when people say to me, hey, I'm coming into Boston and I noticed that the Boston Public Library book sale coincides with my visit, do you recommend it? Even if they don't say, would you go there with me? Do you recommend it? I'm going to say no, absolutely not. Because the Boston Public Library book sale has become a helpless, quivering organism that is a host to a swarm of parasites. It has become almost a dealer-only event. It's 50 people out of 81. That's how close you are now to being a dealer-only event. I don't think you want this to be a dealer-only event. I think the Friends want this to be a fun, casual, friendly celebration of books and reading at the library. I think you want this book sale to be attended by a whole bunch of patrons that you recognize by face, that maybe recognize you, and want to come and chat and look at the books and maybe get a great deal. I think that's what you want for your library book sale. I don't think you want it to be soulless, incredibly rude book dealers. And there is a simple solution. You have been told this solution many times. You have received many complaints about this phenomenon, and not just from me, from lots of people. Plenty of people who've told you long before now that they have long since reached their own breaking point. I have now reached mine. And the solution is simple. Deny cell phone access in that room. The book sale is only one room. Deny cell phone access in that room. There are a number of ways that you can do that, but that's the solution. These creatures don't know anything about books. They hate books. They don't know anything about what they're scanning. All they want is the 10-cent profit on eBay. That's all. If they could get a 12-cent profit on eBay selling old shoes or used brassieres, they would do that and leave books behind without a backward glance. They need their cell phones in order to do anything, in any of the rude stuff that they're doing. If you instituted a rule, the next Boston Public Library book sale, which is on the first weekend in August, no cell phones allowed in the sale room, they wouldn't show up. If you had a sign there, if you had a library employee there at the door saying, sorry you missed the sign, sorry you missed the notice on the website, but we're here also in person to tell you you can't bring your cell phone into the room. Or we've shut off Wi-Fi access in this room. For the duration of the sale, there's no Wi-Fi access in the room. If you had someone to tell them that, the room would be completely free of dealers. They aren't readers. They aren't interested in books. They hate the people in the room. That's a simple solution. And yet, you have not taken it. And I don't believe now that you ever will. So, this was my last Boston Public Library book sale, which is amazing to me. I will look at the Friends of the Boston Public Library website from time to time to see if there's an announcement about steps taken to first address that this is a problem and then stop the problem. Stopping the problem cold is easy. Plenty of libraries have taken this step already, all over the country. You're not taking it, and also don't seem to be acknowledging that there's any reason, that there's any problem. There is a problem. If there's a problem for me, there's a problem for a lot of people who aren't mentioning it. So I will now go back to addressing my imaginary booktube friends and show you the books that I got in what turned out to be a sad occasion. Ordinarily, book sales are not a sad occasion. Library book sales are not a sad occasion, but this is a sad occasion. I'll miss this. But let me show you what I got. Now, the first, I got some mass market paperbacks, then some trade paperbacks, then some hardcovers. And the first mass market paperback I got is a pure example of the kind of mania that comes over you at a library book sale, where you want to help the friends of the library, you want the money to be going to a good cause. It sort of removes your inhibitions about spending and also your judgment about what you're buying. And the first one is one of the only examples of that, because I got a mass market paperback that's in terrible condition. A James Michener book, Caravans, his Afghanistan novel, with this great old cover artwork. That's the main reason that I wanted it. That's the main reason that I grabbed it. I just shoved it into my basket. I should have shoved it back out again when I was done, but I didn't prune. I don't, ordinarily what I do at a book sale or anything like that, a used bookstore, is fill my basket with whatever strikes my instincts in that moment. I don't examine the instincts. I don't sit there and ponder. If my instinct says no most of the time, 95% of the time, if my instinct says yes, then add it to the basket, just add it to the basket. And then when I'm done, I find a nice sequestered nook away from blocking bookshelves where I can prune, where I can go through. And I didn't do that. I never do that for the Boston Public Library book sale. I didn't do that this time. I don't know how much of a read this is going to take before it falls apart. It's not in the best of shape. I did a little bit better with these others, although these next two I got for the branding, even though I know they don't hold up well to a read. We'll just have to see. I'll be careful. The branding is Otto Penzler's Classical American Mystery Library. Otto Penzler, for a while there, he's a great editor, and for a while there he was doing mass market editions of things. The anthology volumes in for instance, his Sherlock Holmes library are great. The two books that I got today they aren't anthologies. They are one author that Penzler wanted to just reprint in these paperbacks. I got two Ellery Queen novels that I suspect are for Garbaugust. I suspect that I will not have to wait until March Mystery Madness to read these. I got the Dutch Shoe mystery and the incredibly inappropriately titled Siamese Twin mystery in this edition. And there were other editions like this there, but I started controlling myself. I started just saying, no, don't get all of these because these pop off. The front, back, and spine pop off from the text block on these quite often. So, 2 is fun, and now I have Ellery Queen paperbacks. Okay, but that's all that I needed. Then we have science fiction and fantasy for the rest of the mass market paperbacks. I found The Stars Disposed by Michaela Rosner, which is not only Renaissance fantasy, but in a lot of ways Renaissance gay fantasy, which is amazing. I had these once upon a time. These came out I say these because this had a sequel, at least one. These came out in the 90s, yes? 1997. Yeah, I haven't had this or read it since then. I read it when I got it as a mass market in 97. Then I found another Walter John Williams. This is Days of Atonement. I don't particularly like this look, but I'm glad to have the book. I love this author. I want as much of him in mass market paperback as I can find. And this is just a big, fat novel set in New Mexico in the 21st century. I think I already have a copy of this, but it was cheap, and it was for a good cause, so I grabbed it. Then an older science fiction novel. I think this will work for Rocket Summer in July. Yeah, 1964. This is The Transfinite Man by Colin Capp. Do I already have this? I don't remember whether I do or not. I have a couple of Colin Capps. Very few. And this is, let's see, Dalroy grew up in the shadows of Failway Terminal, a monolithic destruction enterprise that slowly absorbed the very lives of the people around him. For Failway seemed to feed on what was most bestial in human beings. Every day, transfinite travel capsules went out, pleasure trips to vast and vicious depths that lie beyond human consciousness. Those that returned from those excursions found that they had legally ceased to exist. I'll give it a try, certainly. I have a scattershot approach when it comes to vintage science fiction. Then, this, I don't know. This is an anthology, so... the anthology came out in 1966. So that counts, regardless of the publication. This is Isaac Asimov. This is From Earth to Heaven. Cute little cover there. Earth about to die because a killer asteroid is headed straight for the planet. Just a collection of short stories. There's quite a few of them in here. We'll see. And then more John Brunner. I saw this cover, and I don't remember if I have this in some other cover. I found Time Jump by John Brunner, another short novel. So I still don't have mass market paperbacks of his big, impressive novels. I just have all these little ones. But this... I believe it's from the 1960s. This will also work for Rocket Summer. Yeah, this is a collection of short stories, all of which were written in the 60s. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah. So this will count, because this is what? Del Rey? Yeah, this is a Del paperback that came out in the early 70s, but all the stories in it are from the 60s, so that'll work. Then some history. I found some paperback histories. This one is by J.B. Black. He's great. He's really readable. He's really, really magisterial, really authoritative. This is probably a bad idea. It won't hold up, I think, to a whole read. This is The Reign of Elizabeth. And it is serious, dense, packed stuff. I read this in the library edition, God, I don't know how many years ago. And often when I get a book about Elizabeth I, I yearn for books like this. Often I get... Elizabeth I is a lot like Elizabeth II in that it's very easy to write a dumb book about her. And I want somebody to go down deep into the rolls, deep into the archives, and tell me what the actual stuff is, what the actual muscle of the reign was. And that's what this book does. It's just, I don't know how much of a read it's going to take. It might not be durable. I grabbed it. Then this next one, I have never seen this before. I can't wait to read it. Maybe I'll have Joe Spivey on the brain while I'm doing it. This is by Graham Stewart. I don't know how much Graham Stewart I've read. This is called Bang, A History of Britain in the 1980s. How is that for a cover? I don't know what to expect here. I really don't. But I'm all for it. Absolutely all for it. I think this is a UK trade paperback. Yes, it is. I don't know what to expect here, but it was a library book sale, and I'm up for it. Then the next one, the last history book that I got, is a trade paperback. Something that I got the advanced copy of this. I think we saw it on this channel, and I got the finished copy. I think we saw it on this channel. I never got the paperback from the publisher, and I was never motivated to find the paperback because, despite the fact that I praised this book in a major American venue, I am not blurbed on it. Everyone else in the world is. I can't help but think that somewhere along, I should have let the publicist know that I had written about it for the Christian Science Monitor. I should have let her know that I had written about it because I was expecting that the Monitor would let her know, or that they would have a search function to let them know, and it didn't happen. So you have to look. I'll try to leave a link to my review of These Truths by Jill Lepore. And a nice, sturdy trade paperback. I'm actually glad that I have it as a trade paperback. I don't know that I would have grabbed the hardcover. I don't have the hardcover anymore here. This is a history of the United States, and in its advanced publicity material, I was expecting the worst. The worst. I was expecting this to be identity politics, history of America, grievance politics, history of America. I was expecting it to be cultural Marxism from start to finish, with nothing else, with nothing to care about, nothing that was ever good, no one that was ever good or praiseworthy, all just grinding, shrill talking points. And I was totally wrong. It isn't anything like that. I loved it, and you would love it too. Boy, oh boy, can this author write. You would love it too. So I'm glad to have a trade paperback. It's just a little frustrating, that's all. I confess that when I took the paperback out of the bag here, I just morosely checked it again. I know that I'm not blurbed on it. I've seen that I'm not blurbed on it. I morosely checked again anyway, just in case I missed it. No, I'm the only one who's not blurbed on this thing. Then the next three books are anthologies here. We're almost at the end. The next three books are anthologies, and they are the same kind of anthology. Oxford used to do a series called the Oxford Book Of. Not the same thing as the Oxford Handbook Of. The Oxford Handbook Of is another great anthology series, but they're bigger books, they're much more expensive, they're not distributed in bookstores, they're not for a general audience. The backlist for the Oxford Handbook series is enormously long, and they're fantastic. They are not cheap. They are not cheap. They will cost you, but they are great. This was different. For a long time, decades ago, Oxford did a series of the Oxford Book Of, and then whatever the heading was, and they did a lot of these things, a lot of them. And they're so good. They're just so good. The Oxford Book of Death, the Oxford Book of Friendship, the Oxford Book of Letters are just wonderful. They're absolutely wonderful. I don't know who the editorial team was. I've never actually dug into it, but kudos to them, any of them that are still alive, because they made great books, enduringly rereadable books. And I found three of them today. I have hardly any. I have the Oxford Book of Letters. No matter what I do when I'm purging libraries, crazily purging libraries, like purging the shelves here, I never get rid of those. But I don't have a lot of others. I found the Oxford Book of Sea Stories. How incredible to find this. Now, all three of these anthologies have the library setup on them. So I will have to fix that. which will involve tearing these plastic covers are covering the dust jacket, but the dust jacket is glued to the book. So you need to very carefully detach the cover from the book, then slide the paperback dust jacket out of the library covering, get this off. This is on the dust jacket. Then slide the dust jacket back into the library covering. It takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it. And this is just such a good volume. It is just so good. I also found another one of my favorites that I haven't seen at the Brattle, for instance, used in forever. The Oxford Book of Historical Stories, which is incredible. There's so much good stuff in here, including both of these, including lots of people that I didn't know when I first encountered these anthologies. These are really good for that. They're really good for encountering authors that you don't know. That's one of the great things about anthologies just in general. But these editors range far and wide, so they would often pop in excerpts from authors that I was not familiar with. They have broadened my reading over the decades that I've been loving these volumes. This also has the library thing on it. I'll fix it in the exact same way. See what I mean? The dust jacket here is stuck to the book. So I need to carefully get that off. That's all. Once I get that off, then I can work the dust jacket out of the covering, get the stickers off it, and then put them back on and put it back in there. And then the last Oxford book, slightly bigger than the other two, and well, none of the authors in this anthology are unfamiliar to me. None of them are. In fact, they're my oldest friends. But the translators are not. I loved this volume when I was going through it originally. I had a trade paperback of this a long time ago. I've not seen a hardcover. Regularly, I don't see these books. I don't think people give them up. They're really good. I found the Oxford Book of Classical Verse in translation. Which the cover shows you there. You can just barely make it out that cloud has a face and a paw. But this is the same thing. I'm going to have to go and clean this up. But this has the joy here is not the authors, Tibullus or Virgil or Propertius or Horace or anything like that. Rather, it is the translators. A lot of translators in here will be known to me. Dryden, for instance, is all over this book like a rash, but also lots of other people. Golding, and a whole bunch of other older translators, Victorian and Edwardian translators, more modern translators. I love the volume. Just love it. Don't know why I keep getting rid of it. I think maybe the culprit here the last time was that I had a trade paperback and it just fell apart on me. This thing is as tough as a brick. It won't fall apart on me. I just need to get the library livery off it and it'll be fine. So that was great to find those. And then finally, the last thing that we can talk about here is just a murder mystery. It's just a hardcover murder mystery. I love this series. I don't know how well known it is now. I think that it has stopped. The author is Michael Dibdin. He doesn't always please me, but his series starring Aurelio Zen, very much pleases me. I love all the books. But I love one more than any others, as you could probably guess. Dead Lagoon is his Venice book. It takes his main character, his investigator, Aurelio Zen, to Venice. And does a great job. Just a great, great job. I had this as a trade paperback. All of the Dibdin books came out in a uniform trade paperback about 30 years ago, and I had all of those. They're all long since scattered to the four winds. I don't have any Dibdin other than this. And a lot of his I really, really enjoy. This isn't the only... I'm not saying that this is the only one that I like. A lot of them I really like. But this one is a favorite of mine just because of its location. So there you go. Let's do a Steve pyramid here. We have Dead Lagoon, the Aurelio Zen book set in Venice. We have the Oxford Book of Classical Verse in Translation, the Oxford Book of Historical Stories, and the Oxford Book of Sea Stories. We have These Truths by Jill Lepore, and Bang, History of Britain in the 1980s. We have The Reign of Elizabeth, trade paperback that I probably should have passed on, but then I should have passed on a lot of these. And then a bunch of mass market paperbacks. We have John Brunner. We have Colin Capp, a science fiction author I don't know well. I know that he turned up in my library tour just recently, and I wonder if it was this book. If not, then I have 2 college caps. Days of Atonement by Walter John Williams, the author of Night Moves. We have The Stars Dispose. Can't wait to reread this and see what it's like. Isaac Asimov, a collection, but well within the range of Rocket Summer. Otto Penzler, 2 Ellery Queens that I'm going to save for Garb August. And finally, Caravans by James Michener. But look at this. Just look at the shape that this is in. That's not very good. I'll reinforce it because I would love to read this. I would love to think that I didn't get a book that I'm just not going to read. But there you go. That is the Boston Public Library book sale for June of 2024. The next BPL sale is in August. It's the first Saturday in August. And I won't be going. I'd be willing to bet that the percentage by then will be, out of 81 people, 70 are dealers. And I honestly don't know what the Friends of the Library are waiting for. I honestly don't. Is it okay with you if 100% of the people coming to your event are dealers? So there are no kids anymore. There are no young students anymore. There's none anymore. It's just dealers. Is that really okay with you? The solution is easy. Ban cell phone use in the sale room. The creatures that I'm talking about absolutely depend on their cell phones. They will not be there if you ban cell phone use. Other libraries have done it, and peace has been restored. Ordinary people have been restored to the event. But I've seen no sign that they're going to do that, so I'm not going to wait for it. So it's a little bit of an end of an era. I worried that it would be bad. When David Murphy was taunting me, I worried that it would be bad, but I didn't know it would be this bad. 50 out of 81 people. That's astonishing. It was the last time I went, it was 30 out of 81 people, something like that. So it's not like I need a lot of books. It was a lot of fun to help the friends. But that's it. And this wasn't a bad haul, 20 books. It's not a bad haul for a book event that I wasn't planning on going to. So there you go. Boston Public Library book sale. Oh boy, oh boy. But there's plenty more books to talk about. So I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.